Samantha.
Samantha. Okay.
All right, here we go. Voices of Recovery.
All right, another podcast.
Yeah.
And it looks like I'm wearing the same shirt, but actually I'm not. We're recording this for another day. This is the first one we've actually recorded and not gone live, by the way.
Yeah.
So I don't
Parental Advisory. I never know what the guest is going to say, so just want to give you a heads up that sometimes there are things that are that we want ears to hear. And so if there are folks in the room that are either triggered by something easily or don't need to hear this topic, then I would suggest that they exit the room.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. We don't know what Samantha's going to say.
Yeah, right.
And we're not going to edit this either. So this is just recording because we just did a live.
This is raw.
So this is however you get it, how it's coming out. So
Yeah.
we don't have to do all that. Life isn't that way. This isn't going to be that way.
No.
So Samantha, this is the question I always like to lead off with. Where and at what point in your life wasn't working anymore when you were out there doing what you were doing? Did you have a brief moment of clarity? Did you have just an incident or an episode or something where you said, I can't do this anymore. I got to change what I'm doing?
It wasn't out there. I actually found recovery and higher power after I was arrested.
Okay.
Sitting in Marion County's finest with a new set of bracelets.
All right.
Looking at a lot of prison time for my charges and not knowing whether I was going to go to prison or not. And by that time, I had over 30 years out there. So it was a wake-up call to wake up withdrawing. And anybody that's ever been in Marion County Jail knows it's one of the worst jails in the nation. So I had nobody to call, had nobody to turn to. And at that point, I had been praying for death for so long and it not finding me that I finally, after my head kind of got clear, after I'd say some people that were in the jail with me that had been there for an extensive amount of time said that I was dead on their porch for like 2 weeks, just laying there, detoxing. So when my mind did start to get a little clarity, I sat down and I was just like, you know what? I give up. Nothing that I've done up until now is ever worked. I give up. I give everything to you. I quit praying for things. I quit praying for bond. I quit praying for anything. And I started reading the Bible. There was a girl in there with me that she actually raised every night. And I sat in there 7 months to the day before I was able to get out on drug court. And the only reason that happened is because I had no prior charges for my whole life. So I was able to score out to be able to do drug court. And I did exactly what I said I was going to do when I got out. I did that program's anywhere from 13 months to 24 months. I completed it in 13 months to the day. Never no sanctions, never no mistreatment, never no missed drug tests. I was awarded one of the first females in Marion County to be the role model for that program. Awesome. I remember that day.
That's awesome. So what's it like now that you're clean and sober? That's behind you. What has kind of led you to where you're at, sitting right here doing this? Besides, we ask you to.
Well, when I got out and I started doing AA, I did start doing AA first. I can't lie and say that I immediately started going to church, and I started AA, and it started resonating with me that, I had tried to get sober just on that before, and I had relapsed. So I started to think, AA is so, there's too much. I'm trying to think of the words I'm trying to use. There is so much within the two that if you combine them, I said, if I combine both of them in my everyday life, equally, then there shouldn't be no reason that I should, and it's worked for me great. They go hand in hand to me. As long as I'm doing one and I'm doing the other. And I tried to stay doing exactly what I had started doing from the when I first come out. My meetings, the people, church, we chair meetings. I do speaker meetings. I sponsor when I can. Right now I started going back to college, so I've had to kind of step back away from that a little bit because I don't want to try to sponsor somebody and not be able to with my schedule. But other than that, I just keep doing what I started doing.
That's awesome.
And that seems to keep me doing pretty good.
So I got $1 million question, because we don't get an opportunity to interview females in recovery very often, right? You're like our first since we've been doing this.
Second.
Oh, that's right. The second. Okay. But I had joy watching the relationship like evolve with you and Nick, which in fact, can we show it? Let's show it. They got engaged on Christmas Eve. Yes, got to be first, right there watching the whole thing happen. But there's this whole thing about relationships in recovery. I love your story about the boundaries that you put around that. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because there's a woman out there right now that is on the verge of a relationship, and it's going to make or break her recovery.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say what my sponsor told me, and I did what she told me. Even though I did have that thought of, man, I really don't want to do this. My sponsor told me when I picked her as my sponsor, she said, one rule that I have is you will not enter a relationship until, not really a rule, but she said my number one suggestion would be do not get in a relationship until you've completed the steps. And the reason she said that is because the person you are when you start the steps will not be who you are when you finish them.
Right.
Amen.
You will not attract the same type of person, and that person will not be attracted to you. And for the first 2 months, I was like, man, I hear that all the time, and I did. She said, I can't tell you that you can't see people. Right. And I kind of listened. I started talking to somebody that was in Phoenix House, and it took me maybe 2 or 3 weeks before it clicked. He was actually a narcissist. Like, he would get mad at me if I didn't answer the phone. And I'm like, you know what? This is what I've always been with, is people that try to control me, or it's always me doing something wrong and not them. And I told him, I was like, you know what? My sponsor says I can't date. And I got rid of him.
Blame it on the sponsor.
And from that point on, I did not date. I did not go out. I did meetings every day. I did speaker meetings. I went to the women's dinners. And I was actually friends with Nick for a while before we dated. And I actually told him that. I was like, I can't date. I was like, my sponsor said I can't date. So I was done with the steps. And we did it. And I am so grateful that I took that advice, because I see people every day newly sober. When we're getting sober, especially coming out of rehab or just coming out of jail, we don't even know who we are.
Right. Yeah.
Our feelings are all over the place. We have no idea how to handle our defects, and we're taking the chance on damaging other people. And I tell my sponsees, and this is the big reason that I suggest that they don't get in a relationship, is because you getting in a relationship before you're healed can end your life or somebody else's in recovery, because so many people go back out after relationships break and come back.
Right. No, it's something that I heard, when I first came in here, and sponsor, I was married, so that had its own challenges, believe it or not, because, emotionally, when you quit drinking and using, that's how old you are when you come back and you start getting clean and sober. So I was 15. So that's the part of the emotional part. We're not ready to handle that, and I remember my sponsor telling me one time, I said, I said, I feel like I'm in a bathtub and I'm in with tennis balls and feelings. If I describe all these tennis balls as feelings, they just keep popping up one at a time. And I'm trying to keep them in the tub. And I said, I just can't, get control. He goes, you just calm down, but that's true. We're so immature because we stop growing emotionally,
right.
Until we get clean. That's what age we are when we start our sobriety. So it just makes so much sense. And you're right. And I won't give you the comment that my sponsor gave me that, behind every skirt there's a slip, but because that's what would happen with guys. They would go and they would meet a girl and then they'd get their heart broken, and then they would drink and use. And then it was just something else to use as an excuse to get high, and AA, boy and girl meets on AA campus usually never ends up well unless, there's some time involved. And you're right. Working those steps, finding out who you are. You're right. Certainly not the same person that, knew when he first met you to the time that when you work through those steps. And it just makes for and the relationships in the fellowship with people that are working the program are just really solid because they have somebody else to go to. They're not always going to their spouse. They have a sponsor. They have a group. They have women's meetings and men meetings for a reason. Right. So that you can bounce those things off your peers.
And one of the things that we tell them, we go into the rehab on Monday nights. One week it's men, the other week it's women. And, Nick and Sam are a part of that. And one of the things that we tell them is jailhouse, rehab relationships don't work because one of the key, factors to a really good relationship is communication, honest communication. And if you can't be honest with yourself because you haven't done those steps yet, so you don't even know what honesty looks like yet, right? Then how can you be honest with someone else?
Right.
You're not bringing that characteristic into that relationship.
Well, that too. And a lot of people don't look at it as when you're in rehab or just newly out of rehab. Or like I said, I would say, and I know it's been said before, a year. I think if you have not done the steps in a year, you should wait longer.
Yeah.
Always do go to all the way to 12 and do 12 every day.
Right.
But the ones that are just getting out, and I get it because I was in that spot where our feelings are all over the place and we just want attention and and that's why a lot of places now are not co-ed because you cannot work your sobriety to the fullest if you're so worried about the opposite sex and what's going on. I was in SMA when it was co-ed and it was drama all the time. It was this guy liking this girl and then he would stop liking her and go to this girl.
Tell him on Monday nights, don't make googly eyes across the room, right? Like that had to be one of our ground rules. Do not make, because they would get in trouble for passing notes and stuff. I mean, it's a whole detox in and of itself, the relationships.
And I'm sure that it's any of the co-ed rehabs that are still around, they have issues. Like there was fist fights, there was people getting kicked out because they were sneaking around the corner doing things, and that's that. And I've seen a lot of people get kicked out of rehab, go back to jail, prison, and again, people just get in relationships, and sometimes it's just because we want to be loved so much.
I was just going to say, our desire to be loved is so strong that it can take whatever form that we see it in as good, and we don't even know what good is.
Y'all are starting to turn me into the pastor and talking about how we were created, because we really were. We were created to be in a relationship.
Right.
Right. But when we're not knowing what way is up and what way is down, like I was saying about the guy that I started talking to when I first got sober and didn't listen to my sponsor.
The fact that you even recognize that to me is amazing.
Well, I did, because I was like, oh no. And and I called my sponsor and I'm like, I didn't listen to what you said. I started talking to somebody and this is what happened. And she said, well, where do you see the problem in that? I said, well, because he got upset because I didn't answer the phone because I was downstairs at a meeting. And he was mad at me. And she's like, narcissist? She said, haven't we already been over this about all your previous relationships? You have allowed people to treat you any type of way as long as they were there.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like,
we carry character defects that are attractive to other character defects. than other people. I mean, that's human nature.
Yeah, and now, like I said, once I did the steps and everything, I did totally see how I was not attracted to the type of person anymore. Like I would literally look at him and be like, oh, no.
I love that.
Well, it really there's so much to we don't realize it at the time in our own growth, but what you're talking about is our own self-esteem. Now we've got some self-esteem. We've let go of some of the shame. We're walking forward with our head held high, and we don't have to settle.
Mm-hmm.
So before it was, just kind of like, yeah, that seems okay. But now it's not like that. I mean, and what I'm interested in is what are you doing now? How do you maintain this life you've got? I know you're going to school, and we were talking about that with Nick, talking about how cool is it, that you have the opportunity to do all these things that you used to just, be in a shooting gallery or sitting on a bar stool saying, if I quit this, I can do. And now, that's not there, and you're actually moving in that direction. What is that like, and how does that look?
It can be overwhelming sometimes, not in a necessarily a bad way, but it can just be like, have to take a minute and breathe in and be like, okay, this is everything you prayed for. Now I got to get up and do what I've always wanted to do.
Well, I'll tell you what a friend of mine told me. He says, as long as, your sobriety and your recovery stays in the center, all that peripheral stuff will all work out. It's when we put that on the outside of the circle and put the other stuff in the center is when things go sideways.
Yeah, my higher power and my sobriety would come before anything, because if there's not them two, there's nothing after it.
No, I totally agree.
Amen. I love that.
Totally agree.
Well, Sam, I want to publicly tell you, I told Nick the same thing, that it has been a joy to watch you just evolve. One of the greatest joys, and please forgive me, I'll edit this. I promise you I will edit this if you say anything. But I remember being on the phone with you one time. I was coming to pick you up for something, and you taking forever to do your makeup just because it was a new possibility. Something that you just putting that effort. And I don't say that. I say that to say putting the effort into you, knowing that you're worth it, and watching that light just come alive in your eyes has been wonderful. So thank you for all that you do, even outside of Nick. Thank you for all that you do and all of the time and energy that you put into our recovery community. You're welcome.
And the thing that I love is I've met her 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And the people in the recovery community the feelings that intertwine us are like no other, because we know that we have overcome so much to be sitting here trying to share this message with somebody that's suffering. Yeah. And that says it all.
And we don't have to hide it, right? We don't have to hide it. We can be who we are.
Apparently not.
That's it. Well,
no, I definitely am recovering out loud.
That's awesome.
Love it.
We appreciate you so much.
Say it again.
I'm in recovery out loud.
Why?
Because if I'm in recovery silent, then somebody sitting next to me can die.
That's the truth.
Amen. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
So great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, Voices of Recovery, Parental Advisory. Again, I don't think we really needed
We're not editing this.
Give that. We're not going to edit this. So grateful for both Nick and Sam. You got to see Nick's earlier at some other point. If you are looking for it, just scroll up and I'm sure that you'll come across it. But we're grateful for our people. So until next time.
See you later.
Ya.